Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Enthusiast Live, the weekly sessions where we talk about all things nonprofit. Whether you're a seasoned nonprofit professional or just getting started in the industry, these lives are for you. Our mission is to provide engaging and informative conversations with experts in the nonprofit world, sharing insights, strategies, and stories that can help you make a difference in your community and beyond. Each episode is centered around a theme for the month. The topics include anything from fundraising and marketing to volunteer management and board development. We'll explore the challenges facing nonprofits today and share practical tips and advice for overcoming them. But Nonprofit Enthusiast Live isn't just about learning. We also want to create a community of like-minded individuals who are passionate about making a positive impact. We want to hear from you and engage in conversations that inspire and motivate us all to do more. So whether you're tuning in during your morning commute, while doing chores around the house, or on a break from your busy workday, we hope you'll find something valuable in each episode of Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. I'm your host, Lashina Williams, and so excited to be back with you all and kickstart the new year with our topic around what funders actually look for, the truth about nonprofit readiness. So today I have a very special guest back on with us. We have Sherry Chaney Jones, and I'm going to welcome her on up. So join me on welcoming. Oops.
Oh.
1 second. There we go. Hello. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Same here. Before we dive into this month's topic, if you don't mind just kind of talking a little bit about how you entered the nonprofit arena and then where you are today supporting nonprofits.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been working in and around nonprofits for about 25 years, which feels crazy to even say, but it wasn't necessarily what I thought I was going to do for a living. I'm an industrial and organizational psychologist by training. I thought I was going to design selection tests for big corporations, but luckily for me, my very first job out of graduate school was working for a small consulting firm, and we were developing what was this product at the time called Job Profile Questionnaire, which was helping case managers in nonprofits help people with severe and persistent mental illness find work. And so what I learned really early in my career was that I could use my passion for data, for numbers, to help the social sector. And so that led to a career in government for about 10 years, where I was a nonprofit funder, which ties into this topic very much. And so my job was to evaluate the impact of the nonprofits that we funded, and as well as the nonprofit of our own programs, and then raise more money through the state legislature, the federal government, other foundation spaces. And in 2010, I decided to leave the government job to help as many nonprofits as possible have the right data so they could drive decisions, tell their story, and raise more money. And so I've been doing that ever since.
Love it. So this is the perfect topic for you.
Absolutely, it is.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about the topic when it comes to nonprofit readiness. What are the most common readiness gaps you see that cause funders to pass, even when the mission is strong within a nonprofit?
Yeah, I think this is such an important topic for right now at the beginning of the year. That's why when we were talking, I'm like, absolutely, I want to talk about this to as many nonprofit leaders, because it's changed. The rules have changed significantly since a year ago today. And we need to be ready. We need to make sure that we are ready. And I think the one misconception that a lot of nonprofit leaders don't realize is that they might have a solid story. Like, they can tell a great narrative. They might even be able to articulate the need in their community and how they solve that problem, but without being able to demonstrate to funders how their programming does solve the problem. So it's one thing to say we have this need and here is how we solve it. But if they can't demonstrate with real data and real numbers that they actually are solving that problem, they might get passed over by those organizations who are not only saying there's a need in our community, this is how I solve it, and here's the proof that we actually solve it. So I hope you can see the difference, right? One is like talking about like a theory, and the other is actually demonstrating proof that they're creating that change in the world.
So are you saying nonprofits shouldn't run from data?
They should they should not run. They should they should love it. And I've got some really great data on myself, on my own, that talks about why you should not run from data. You should embrace it.
Love it, especially nowadays, being able to, and I love that you talked about not just telling the story, but also having those numbers to be able to support and help amplify the story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one thing, if anyone's on the fence and they're like, numbers seem like a nice to have, I don't have the time or the energy to collect them. Research that I've conducted has actually shown that when nonprofits have data aligned with their mission and are strategically using it to make decisions. So there's 3 elements there, right? It's data aligned with your mission. So how are people better off because of your programs? And you're using it, not just in your fundraising, but you're using it to drive, your decision-making and your programming. Then if those things are true, 62% of them have reported increased revenue, meaning top line money into their organization over the past 2 years. Now, 62%, it's, more than half. But if we compare that to the nonprofits that only have data related to, like, I can tell you how many people I served, only 18% of those can report more resources to the top line. And if you have 0 data at all, like you're just telling great stories, you're at 12%.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. I want to be in that 62%.
That's right. Me too.
It's a lot better than 18.
I can't believe this. We're only 5 minutes into the conversation. You already gave away the golden ticket to being able to increase the support for your organization through using data. So embracing data, not running away from it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So, why has impact measurement become a non-negotiable for nonprofits heading into 2026?
Yeah. So I think it's, I've been in this business for 25 years. It's always been important. But why it's like, I think just jumped important, if it was like 3rd on the list, I think it's 1 on the list today, because what happened over the past year, and I don't know that a lot of people really understand the impact of what's happened in the federal funding landscape. So we saw a bunch of nonprofits who used to have 0 philanthropy or donations. They were 100% funded through government grants. And some of it, like you might not have even thought they were government funded, but it trickled down, right? So the federal government paid the state paid the county paid the nonprofit. So it looked like, they're county funded or they're city funded. But in reality, if you follow the money, it flew all the way up to the federal funding. So with that funding just cut, no longer available, it's gone. Now we have these nonprofits that are very critical to, like, domestic violence shelters, emergency assistance shelters. So really important nonprofits that do really great work in our communities are now going and applying for funding sources like family foundations, community foundations, individual donors that they may have never asked for money from those. So if you are a nonprofit who are used to relying on those corporate foundations and those family foundations, now your competition just exponentially doubled. And those foundations are feeling crushed. They are trying to change their roles. So let's say before they gave out 5% of their assets every year in philanthropic funding, many of them are trying to step up to the need and making decisions to increase it by, 7 or 10%, but it's still not enough necessarily to cover the gap. And so there's this just such a demand, and they have to decide, who are we going to fund? How are we going to fund them? And so as a nonprofit, and I know we're talking about readiness, anything you can do to stand out from those peers, to really just say, we are a sound investment, here's our unarguable value, is going to help you.
Love that. So those of you tuning in, data is a non-negotiable in 2026. So if you were an organization that ran from it, go ahead and embrace it. And it's here, and it's here to stay. It's been here.
Yes, it's
But
been here.
it's been here. But that's a really good point that you brought. So a lot of those organizations who may have relied on federal funding now coming into maybe the corporate foundation, family foundations, and so forth, which increases the competition for organizations, that apply on the or rely on that type of funding from year to year. So it's definitely a year to go ahead and embrace that.
Yeah.
So my next question, how should nonprofit leaders be using data to guide their decisions and not just for reporting?
Yeah. So, like I started with, I kind of give you the headline at the beginning, that those organizations, and again, I didn't just say have data. It's they have data and they're strategically using it to make decisions. Those are the two elements. So if you're a grant writer, or, if you're lucky enough to have, a data scientist or someone who collects the data for you, if they're the smartest person in your organization in terms of what your data say, you're not in that high culture organization. And so what you should be thinking about, one of my favorite quotes is by a philanthropist, Mario Marino, who wrote the book Leap of Reason. And he was reported saying this back, just at the outset of the Great Recession. So maybe 2012. I mean, it's a while ago. But he was giving a speech, and I was in the audience when he was giving the speech, and he was talking about the importance of data for nonprofits to be using data in their day-to-day decision making. And his quote is, "Forget your darn funders." He used a different word, but forget your darn funders and do it for yourself. And that is the attitude that nonprofit executives need to embrace. That yes, you're going to win more money if you prioritize this data, because you're going to stand out from the competition when you write grants. But the real reason that you want to have this data is that, first and foremost, you're in the business of social change, right? You're in the business of changing lives and changing circumstances. And how can you know if you're successful if you're not measuring it? And I like to use this analogy that if you would, think about a corporate CEO, for example, and let's say they showed up to their board meeting and they're like, we've been really swamped this quarter. We've had so many new customers and demands on our time. And I don't know. I don't know if I created a return for the shareholders. I don't like that data. I don't have the time or the money. How long would that CEO have that job? How long? But yet somehow when we're running nonprofits, we forget that our mission it's not necessarily how much money we bring into the organization. Like, that's important because we need that to run. But the real reason we exist is to change lives and change circumstances. So we need to be measuring that to ensure we're meeting our mission and using the information we're collecting to pivot, to change, to improve, to grow, and to expand.
I love that. Because so often, in the nonprofit sector, you get caught in kind of like, okay, it's annual report time. Let's pull these numbers together. Or, hey, this funding report is coming up. We need these numbers. But the quote that you use pretty much saying you need the data. Like, forget everyone else. You need it. Your organization needs this data to survive with or without, others. So I love that you kind of emphasize that.
Yeah. And no one likes to think about, and I've experienced this, and I know it's not a popular thing to say, but it's why you need the data. I have been working with wonderful nonprofit professionals, and when they started to look at their data, more regularly in terms of, are we making people better, or, are people improving their lives through our services? Sometimes they've learned that they haven't. And you don't want to wait a year to learn that. You want to know that in the first 90 days so you can modify your programming so you will get their lives better. But if you don't know that, you could just keep doing the same thing over and over again and not achieving your mission.
Oh, that's a good point. Um, so if a nonprofit could fix just one thing in the next
Mhm.
90 days, they're listening to this, you know, they're listening to us talk right now, and they're like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, I'm just gonna throw everything out the window and start over. So if a
yeah.
nonprofit leader could fix just one thing in the next 90 days to improve
Mm,
their readiness,
yeah.
what should it be?
Yeah. So I think it doesn't have to be hard. I know a lot of nonprofit leaders, they got into their work because they want to make a difference. Math and
Mhm.
data were not their favorite subjects in school. So first I want to tell them, I know it might sound hard, but it's not hard. And let me kind of break it down into really small chunks of things that I know are very doable. So you want to make sure you have 3 types of data within your organization. The first is, who do you serve? So make sure that you know a little bit about the population you serve. Some really basic things to collect that I think are really important is make sure you know what zip code people are coming from, um, race, maybe gender if it's relevant to your mission, because we want to make sure we're creating equal outcomes for all people. And we also want to know maybe age, if age is important for your
Mhm.
mission. And because typically you want to make sure your interventions are working for all types of populations. So
Mhm.
just think about that. Can I collect for the people I serve zip code, race, gender, and maybe age?
Mhm.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, what do you do with them? Can you track how many services and hours each person you serve gets? And then the third thing is, how are they better off? Now, that's the one
Mhm.
where everyone's like, oh, that seems so scary, Sherry. But I'm going to give you a trick. To identify what you're going to measure for how people are better off, you're going to ask yourself 3 questions. The first is, why do we do what we do? Meaning, why does your nonprofit do what it does? The second is, why do our funders fund us? And the third is, why do our participants participate in our programs, or what do they hope to accomplish? So you're going to answer those 3 questions. Why do we do what we do? Why do our funders fund us? Why do our participants participate? And the secret is, those whys are what you should be measuring. You should be
Mm.
making sure that those things are happening for the people you serve.
I love it. And I love how you simplified it. Because
Yes,
data can get so, but you made it really simple. And I love that. Thank you for breaking that down.
sure. Absolutely.
What advice would you give nonprofits that feel overwhelmed by data, but
Mhm.
know they need to start somewhere? And I'm guessing it's going to kind of line up similar to, because you really did just break that down and made the
Yeah.
data like digestible and not too overwhelming. But is there anything else that you would advise?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the 5 whys exercise is
Mhm.
the, well, I gave you 3, but it goes farther than to that, because we ask, you know, you want to then ask yourself those 3 questions 5 times.
Mhm.
That's why we call it the 5 whys exercise. I think it's that particular exercise that is it's my favorite thing to do. I do it with all of our customers because it really takes what feels hard and heady in terms of like if I asked you what are your nonprofit's outcomes,
Mhm.
I get deer in the headlights. But if I say, why do you do what you do? People can start to answer that question.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's the piece that everyone gets hung up on the most. So make it more conversational, get clear on those whys. You don't have to measure everything under the sun. Start with like 3 things, in
Mhm.
terms of those outcome buckets, start there. Um, and then you'll learn from those 3 things and you might start adding things. So I don't know if that is my biggest advice. Also, I mean, I would be remiss if I say let technology shine in 2026. Like
Mhm.
you're we're living in a world where technology has advanced so far that it can help take out the hard. Once you identify
Mhm.
those whys, you can let technology analyze the data for you and give you the insights you need for you. Whereas 20 years ago, you needed to hire someone who knew how to analyze data. You can find technology to help you do that. So lean into technology as well.
I love it. Um, Anything else that we have not discussed when it comes to the truth about nonprofit readiness that you would like to touch on?
Yeah, I think it's don't be afraid. I've seen this pattern play out more and more lately, and so I
Mhm.
think we just need to be really open and honest. I know not a lot of nonprofits are afraid to tell their funders that they need investment for like they need to invest in collecting data, because they're afraid that if they tell their funder they need money for it, that then that's admitting that they haven't been doing it in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just be okay with that, and let's understand that it is required now where it may not have been required 4 or 5 years ago, and funders understand that, but they want to pay for impact measurement. I've done extensive interviews with funders, and they want that impact measurement expense to be embedded into the program budget. So he put it in that program budget, right? It is going to take some time. It might take some, investment in a technology platform or investment in some staff capacity to help you do it, but put that into the budget. So when you get the funding, you can continue to do the work.
I love that. Because so often when writing different proposals, you don't think about including that in there, into that program. And I'm sure if a funder sees that, they would appreciate that for including, knowing that you're going to have quality data.
Yeah. And advice we give is, so let's say it's going to be $5,000. I don't know. I'm just making up a number.
Yeah.
And you just take that $5,000 and divide it by maybe the number of people you anticipate serving or the number of programs it will support. And then you add that in as like a data management fee on a per person basis or a per program basis. And it looks like, it actually builds trust, because it shows the funder that that's a sophisticated organization. They've put in a data management fee.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So where can leaders learn more about your work or continue learning about impact and data-driven decision making?
Yeah, well, I would invite them to go to sureimpact.com, SURE-impact.com. And on our website, we have on-demand webinars. We have a lot of free guides. One of the best guides is the Ultimate Guide to Impact Measurement. It kind of gives you a cheat sheet for everything you need to do, and I've talked about. So just a lot of great resources. And then if you're curious on how to leverage technology to make it easier, we've got like some tutorials you can walk through our product. And so that's a great resource. Go to sureimpact.com. If you want to connect with me personally, I love LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So I invite you, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just put a little note that, hey, listen to your Nonprofit Enthusiast podcast, and we can continue the conversation there as well.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for all the valuable tips that you gave us and hanging out with us today. And thank you all so much for tuning in to Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.